Don't stop at Akonta. Pursue all companies and individuals involved in illegal mining. Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining to the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources.
The NDC MP for Owen has been accused by his traditional authority of being involved in Galamsey. He says it's not true. That should be investigated. The report that was done by Honorable Professor from Pomboate should also be looked at.
Akonta Mines heads to the court to contest the revocation of its mining license. The Minerals Commission maintains that the company holds no valid mining lease for operations in the forest and lacks the necessary forest entry permit to carry out any mining activities. We have details of that also in sports.
Interim Asante Kotoko coach Karim Zito prioritized his results over style as he vows to revive their title hopes.
And in our fire series, Agbagloshi fire victims still waiting for help months after the fire destroyed their businesses.
It was unexpected. I was asleep. Then before I would realize fire. I stood up. I said I charged fire. I lose my everything. Even my house, like 18 rooms, all burned.
These are more coming up with me, Maame, Nyamekye, Thompson. This is Joy News, independent, fearless, credible. Stay for details. And this afternoon, Executive Director of the Ghana Center for Democratic Development and Chair of the committee tasked with reviewing the 1992 Constitution, Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, is calling for sweeping reforms to the process to remove a Chief Justice from office. His calls follows President Mahame's decision to suspend Chief Justice Tokono after a prima facie determination was made with respect to some petitions against the head of the judiciary. Professor Prempeh wants the petition against the CJ to be published, while also suggesting that no sitting judge is allowed to sit on a committee which investigates the claims against the Chief Justice. We have details of this, and Kwekwa Asante joins me in the studio. He's a member of our Legal Affairs desk. Kwekwa Asante, what are the specifics of the proposals made by Professor Prempeh?
So they are in two folds. First, he says he wants the secrecy or the lack of transparency concerning the removal petition to be dealt with. He says even if the removal proceedings must be held in camera, he believes that at the minimum, the findings and outcome of the proceedings, including the grounds supporting the evidence behind such a removal petition, must be made public. Of course, after the fact, that is whether or not the petition succeeds. The public must not be kept in the dark as to why a removal petition failed or succeeded. In the interest of justice, I believe the grounds and evidence in support of the committee's decision, whichever way it goes, must be made public. And then secondly, he says, I think that the removal petition, as it pertains to a Chief Justice, no sitting judge should be included in the 5-person removal committee that is constituted to hear the petition. In other words, none of the CJ's judicial peers must be made to sit in judgment on a removal petition involving their judicial colleague or boss, as they are likely to have an interest in the outcome of the case. We could use retired jurists or other retired career public servants, preferably appointed by a special committee of the Council of State in place of sitting judges. The 3 other non-lawyer members of the committee could also be selected through a more politically inclusive, diverse or neutral process, as opposed to being appointed, as Article 46 currently provides, by the President in consultation with the Council of State.
Thank you, Kwekwa Asante. Meanwhile, an associate professor at the University of Ghana School of Law, Kwejo Apiejetia, says the President should have put on hold the removal process until at least the injunction application currently at the Supreme Court against the process is determined.
The whole constitutional the case before the Supreme Court came about as a result of the fact that the Chief Justice felt aggrieved by not being given the opportunity to present her side of the case before a prima facie determination is made, which was granted. So from that angle, I would have thought that these cases before the Supreme Court would be moot. But they are still there, and I think that in view of that, in my opinion, while I agree with the fact that the President has a constitutional mandate to fulfill, since the case was in court, I don't see the need for the rush for the President to have come up with continue the process. And so probably a little more of weight may have helped for the Supreme Court to make a pronouncement on that decision.
So sorry for clarity. Are you suggesting that the president should have waited for the Supreme Court before suspending her?
I'm not sure if it would have changed anything, because in that case, we would have had a declaration by the Supreme Court or a decision by the Supreme Court on the matter. And so, in my opinion, it wouldn't have hurt for for the president to have waited for a decision from the Supreme Court.
Well, governance expert Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah joins us for more on this raging controversy. Prof, we're grateful for your time on the Midday News. What are the governance issues raised in this matter for you, and do you think what we are witnessing is good for governance? Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah, can you hear me? Kindly unmute and speak to us, please. Professor Bafo, can you hear me, please? Unfortunately, we're still trying to establish contact with Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah on this, and he's going to tell us more about the issues that we are experiencing with the CJ. Now, Chairman of the NPP's Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee, Frank Davis, says the decision by John Mahama to suspend the Chief Justice constitutes an assault on the judiciary and a calculated attempt to remove her from office.
This obviously is the first in our democratic dispensation that the Chief Justice has to be suspended on petitions which have been filed against her, ostensibly for her removal. I see it more as an assault on the judiciary, so to speak.
How so? I mean, this is due process.
Well, can I? I'm not saying it's not due process. Of course, Article 146 is a constitutional structure, so nobody can say that what is happening is not regulated by the Constitution.
Well, let's get back to Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah. Prof, we're asking what the governance issues raised here are.
Yes, I hope you hear me this time.
Well, loud and clear.
Great. I think this case has been dragged to an extent where we may suffer what you may call reputational damage as a nation. You see, in democracies, we all know that the three pillars, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, constitute the core of democratic functioning. And because of that, theoretically, we have what you call the separation of powers, which in essence reifies the independence of each of these institutions. So what we have known historically is that executives, no matter how angry they are with the judiciary, they find some ways to deal with that. Example, in America in the 30s, when Roosevelt faced a very conservative court, he damned them in all kinds of unprintable languages, but never touched any, simply initiated reforms for the judiciary. In our own country, the only president who directly fired a chief justice was Kwame Nkrumah after the trial of the Kulungugu incident, and 3 of his own CPP stalwarts were found not guilty. Nkrumah fired the chief justice, Akukosa. If you come forward in our history, Buzia was very much upset with the decision of the Supreme Court stopping him from firing the so-called Apollo 5A6. All Buzia did was to say that no court can compel me to work with people that I don't like. He never touched them, but disobeyed. Even recently with Kufuor, in the case of Chikata, when the president was not happy with that, he didn't fire anybody, but what he did was to look for the loophole in the Constitution that has no limit on the number of Supreme Court judges. So he appointed Justice Afre, added him to tilt the court. And of course, when they sat again, he won the case. So in democracies, presidents are always careful not to create any impression of subverting the other arm of government. So in this case, I think your previous speakers have noted some very important issues. One is the non-neutrality of those who have been constituted to prove the case. And secondly, the issue of timing and the rush. It creates the impression that perhaps the president has an agenda in this particular case. Of course, we do not forget that towards the elections, our president, Mahama, then a candidate, made it public that the Chief Justice will be fired. So this becomes what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy. He said it and he's doing it. And even if the Chief Justice has serious cases to answer, that what you may call prejudice that was expressed earlier taints the whole thing. So in terms of governance, I think we are creating some kind of muddiness in this whole process. And look, I'm not here exonerating the Chief Justice, no. But the issue is whether the timing and the approach and the processes, we know the Constitution has laid down processes and the President is following that. So there's no problem. But we have to be mindful of the separation of powers. Look, if the next time another government comes, another president comes and decides to do the same thing, then the politicians have subverted the very institutions that are constituted for democratic rule. So I think some of us are worried about the trend of this particular case.
So, Prof, how can this process be managed to ensure that the country comes out of this not bruised?
At the moment, it's difficult because, look, the State Council of State seem to have approved the process. You know, last year, before the elections, I know there was a petition against the same Chief Justice. And the then President Akufo-Addo found a way to write back responding legally that there's no prima facie. Okay, so the case then ended. But the case has been renewed under the new administration. It's gone to the, the Council of State, which is what is required. But you see, and I have to be consistent here. For the past many years, I'm one of the individuals who have always questioned the relevance of the Council of State. Look, members of the council are very, very intimate friends of the council. But it doesn't matter. The previous council, I said the same thing. Because when you have a council that's already politically tainted, neutrality gets lost.
Right.
So if the Council of State comes to rubber stamp what the president wants, then I don't see, So I think what we will do to really stop this, I don't know. Now the 5 people who have been constituted, if they can really come to save the situation, it will be to simply say, well, we went through the process, we didn't find anything really warranting. Of course, that will make some of us happy and blah, blah. But still, the issue remains, Right. So I think at this point, we should allow the process to go. But I'm hoping that, just like Professor Prempe said earlier in your earlier broadcast, that the Constitution is biased. Because there are known entities on that commission that are affiliated to parties. So it makes it really muddy. And I hope the president will find a way to cut this off so that we protect our democracy and we don't subject ourselves to the ridicule that others may see us to be in terms of what to do.
Thank you so much, Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah, and he's a governance expert. But with Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo now on suspension, the man who has stepped into the act is Justice Bafo Boni. Who is he and what do we know about him? Kwekwa Asante of our Legal Affairs Desk has more.
Acting Chief Justice Paul Bafo Boni woke up on Tuesday morning, an ordinary member of the Supreme Court bench, and went to bed on Tuesday evening, the acting Chief Justice. Paul Bafo Boni is currently the most senior of the 14 judges at the Supreme Court. He was appointed to the Apex Court in 2008 by former President John Ejekun Kufuor. Prior to this, he had served as both a High Court judge and a Justice of the Court of Appeal. He was called to the bar to practice as a lawyer in 1983. Justice Paul Bafo Boni's vote was key in deciding the 2012 election petition that challenged the election of John Mahama for his first term. While he voted in support of some of the petitioners' reliefs, he rejected the NPP's allegations of overvoting and non-signing of pink sheets. Justice Bafo Boni is married to the newly appointed Director General of the Ghana Prison Service, Patience Bafo Boni, and is brother to the late Sainty Bafo Boni, the late founder of Radio Gold and longtime advisor to President Mahama. Acting Chief Justice Bafo Boni is currently 68 years and is set to retire as a Supreme Court judge in December of 2026.
Let's head now to the northern region. Doctors at the Tamale Teaching Hospital are threatening to lay down their tools, citing deep frustration over persistent shortages of essential medical supplies and what they describe as a growing trend of scapegoating health workers for poor patient outcomes. In a statement, the Doctors Association expressed their frustration, reaching a boiling point. This follows the controversial dismissal of the hospital's CEO by the Health Minister Kwabena Mintah-Kando on a surprise visit. Michael Ashale captures how the incident played out in the following report.
And life has been lost. That's why it's blown up. If you have that mindset, you will get the expression wrong.
A surprise visit to the Tamale Teaching Hospital turns when Health Minister Kwabena Mintah-Kando clashed with staff over broken down medical equipment. The minister, clearly frustrated, discovered key machines had been out of service for months, even after the hospital spent its internally generated funds trying to fix them.
And then they were able to revive one. We paid them from our IGF. And this is the second thing, the light has gone off. We were running on generator. And we were burning diesel to man the whole hospital.
Just hours before his arrival, a patient had died, an incident that only heightened the minister's anger.
As I speak to you now, we have thanked him for his services he has delivered at the Tamale Teaching Hospital, and we think that somebody else must come and continue as the CEO of the facility.
So he has been sacked?
Exactly.
With immediate effect?
With immediate effect.
Kwabena Mintah-Kando also announced a tough new policy. Public hospitals must now fix their own broken equipment using their IGF.
But the doctors warn that such actions should not serve as a convenient response to systemic issues plaguing the health sector. My colleague Hannah Odami joins me with details of that statement. Hannah, what are the key issues?
So, Maame, see, the doctors are saying that they have formed a committee of inquiry to investigate this matter, and they want to reiterate their unwavering support for their colleague, their dismissed colleague, who has demonstrated, according to them, exemplary leadership in his unit, and whose only crime was to point out the problems in the facility that needed urgent attention to improve care. They further go on to say that they stand in strong solidarity with their colleague and will resist any action to hamper his ability to discharge his duties. Mamiesi, hear this. They are saying that the current trend where basic requirements for health care are unavailable, only for the health personnel to be vilified for poor outcomes, they will advise themselves and take action that may not guarantee industrial harmony. And currently, we know that an emergency meeting of all the doctors at the Tamale Teaching Hospital is being organized to consider their options.
Thank you, Hannah. Well, Northern Regional Correspondent Martina Bugri joins me for the very latest on this. Martina, tell us the mood in the hospital following the dismissal of the CEO.
There's uneasy calm at the facility. I mean, everybody's worried. They do not know who is next, considering the commentary that the CEO can't be the only one running the facility. That it has to be a systemic issue, and so there was the need for more people to be fired. When you speak to people, they are a bit down, waking up to come to work, and suddenly you don't have a job. It's something they are all worried about. But when you speak to patients, also, they are excited. They think that this is a step in cleaning the hospital and ensuring that they are offering quality health care delivery.
Well, Martina, very briefly, the doctors are entering into a meeting. Do you know what they'll be discussing?
So as we speak now, we have two different meetings that are currently ongoing now at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. The management is currently in a meeting to consider some of the things the minister had asked them to implement in the soonest. And so they are in a meeting right now to fashion out these issues. Now, these doctors are also going to meet to consider what they have said and if there is a need to move further on taking an action on the trade they have issues.
Right. Thank you so much, Martina. On the other hand, the minority in Parliament has demanded the immediate reinstatement of Dr. Adam Atiku, the dismissed CEO of the Tamale Teaching Hospital. We can hear from Dr. Kingsley Ajiman, a member of the Parliament Select Committee on Health.
Not consistent with the provision of the very act that established the teaching hospitals. So it's out of order. And again, in all humility, I mean, rules of natural justice stipulate that people should be given fair hearing. I don't think the CEO was heard in this matter. The whole decision was rash. And you believe that if you want to do public service, it calls for high level of sobriety. I mean, we can't run things out of emotions. The decision was very rash. And it's a very, very inimical tool to the work of the health profession.
You're still listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. We'll take a break. We return with sports. And in our fire series, Akbabushi fire victims still waiting for help months after fire destroyed their businesses.
It was unexpected. I was asleep. Then before I realized fire. I stood up. I said I charge fire. I lose my everything. Even in my house, like 18 rooms, all burned.
Where did I? Now I don't know many just are. Obiang, what you call her? Ain't you want to say petrol super energizing drinks for motion? Hey boy.
Petrosol are celebrating their 10 years in grand style. They're giving back to their loyal customers. Hope you have registered at their online portal. Don't say I didn't tell you all.
Each month, customers will stand a chance of winning items like tricycles, motorcycles, television sets, refrigerators, phones, fuel vouchers, and many more. But the best part is that at the end of the promo, we will be giving out a grand prize of 2 Suzuki Espresso cars to lucky winners who stay with us all through the promo period. All you need to join is to visit any of our over 100 stations across the country to get registered, or go to www.petrosolcrm.com to register online.
Petrosol, energizing dreams.
When I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth with Kale Charcoal toothpaste. This gives me confidence all day.
Anytime you meet Amma, don't be surprised I smile showing my beautiful white teeth because I don't have cavity thanks to Kale Charcoal toothpaste for its natural charcoal properties. In fact, we are like twins. I can't go without my Kale Charcoal toothpaste.
That be why I dey use Kale Charcoal toothpaste morning and night when I dey go bed safe. It dey make my teeth white where it dey comot every scent from my mouth inside. My confidence level they go up, so I dey show my 32 teeth all.
Introducing the Kale Charcoal toothpaste, formulated with activated bamboo charcoal powder, ensures whiter teeth and removes bad breath. The strong natural property of the activated bamboo charcoal removes bacteria, absorbs surface stains on our teeth caused by coffee, wines, and tobacco. Welcome, Kale Charcoal toothpaste. Kale Charcoal toothpaste, Sankofa Yenchi.
Kale, happy smile.
This advert is FDA approved.
Hey, dear Niham sir. Stay soft concentrate fabric softener. I was such it move. Just send it this way. You have met now. Niham it's now. No, be a baby. Someone some demoni in us say. Dear Niham say. Fair quiet, yes, in Biara Association Ontario. Uses Stay Soft and Niham it's now. Nani boss to tap from cry. A fabric softener. A year near says, sir. Choose to Stay Soft. No who's so you know. FDID a dreading crowd to yatu.
Welcome back to the Midday News. What's up, Milwaukee in sports?
Yes, Maame, interim Asante Kotoko head coach Karim Zito is targeting all 18 points from the club's final 6 games in the Ghana Premier League. Now, the Porcupines currently sit 4th on the league table, 6 points off the top spot. Now, Zito, who stepped in following the dismissal of Prosper Nate Ogum, says his focus is on results, even if it means sacrificing attractive football.
All what we are after now is to see us back to the. So it's not about football now. Football is our moment. There's a moment when I told my boys, that was dreams. Now we catch up at the moment when the league is going to an end. There's no another chance again. So for now, the supporters, you have to tell them it's not about fine football now. It's about who wins. And this is what we are going to struggle to do. Yesterday we told them 18 points and they say it started. So I'm more concerned about the game against Ghana.
So that's the head coach of Asante Kotoko, Karim Zito.
Thank you very much, Mubarak. On today's Climate Focus, we explore the critical connection between climate-induced migration, peace and security. Our spotlight turns to the northern parts of Ghana, where we have the first look on the effects of climate change as it extends beyond environmental concerns to impact livelihoods, employment and regional stability. The report, produced in collaboration with our partners at the Youth Bridge Foundation, delves deeper into these pressing issues.
In the heart of West Africa, beneath its burning sun and upon its parched earth, a story of survival, conflict, and the quest for peace unfolds. This is northern Ghana, where the consequences of climate change are not just statistics, but stark realities that shape the destinies of its people. The Fulani and nomadic people and the Dagombas, farmers rooted to the land, find themselves at the crossroads of tradition and the harsh realities of climate change. Dams that once sustained life have dried up, leaving behind more than just barren land.
In the dry season, the little water remaining in the dam for us to use becomes muddy, making it difficult for us to use it. The dam used to be deep with clean water, but with the dirt in it now, it renders the water dirty, even if the quantity is much. As people fetch the water, some fetch it home for their animals to drink, but we ourselves do not have a clean source of water to drink. But we have no other option than to also rely on this water for drinking and cooking.
For the Fulani, migration is not a choice, but a necessity. As water becomes scarce and grazing lands vanish, they move, driven by the ancient rhythms of the earth and sky. But their journey is fraught with challenges.
The only source of water we have is the place where we are. The small dam we can use to harvest some small water. It will take us, after when the rain stops, it will take us maybe 1 or 2 months, then it will finish. After that, we will not get any water unless we move to different places and get water for we ourselves and our animals. Because of we are suffering for getting water, so that's the reason why our father, he said we should organize some small amount so that we'll get people to come and help us to redig the place so that we harvest more water.
The arrival of the Fulani and their herds in Dagomba land sparks conflict. Lands once fertile are now battlegrounds, where survival is pitted against survival. Both sides bear the scars of this clash, with stories of loss and longing.
Well, months after a fierce fire gutted wooden homes and shops at Agbogbloshi's Bola Down in November 2024, victims say they've been left to fend for themselves with no support from government, corporate bodies or aid groups. Sweetie Abochi reports.
Destroyed by the fire because most of the structures here were made out of wood.
At 10 p.m. on November 24th, 2024, here at Bola Top Down in Agbogloshi, fire started from right here in this corner and razed down several structures all the way going back miles from where I'm standing right now. Lives were not destroyed, but means of livelihood were. Abdulaziz lives right behind me, and he was one of the first victims of that fire. He lost his house, and this is his story.
It was unexpected. I was asleep. Then before I would realize fire. I stood up. I saw that church fire. I lose my everything. Even my house, like 18 rooms, all burned. The whole business with me I do for the year. I sold everything on the 24th November. Morning time, yes. I sold everything, evening time, the whole thing burned. 50,000 Ghana cedis. Everything burned.
Just like Abdulaziz, Johnson is another victim of the fire that razed down several wooden structures here at Agbogloshi Bola Top Down. And like Abdulaziz, he also is unable to mobilize the funds to rebuild his home.
This is not the first time of fire outbreak here. Money that has lost 800,000 above it.
Motorbikes, homes, furniture, wooden structures that served as stalls all burnt down to ashes, and they remain hopeful. However, they're asking that if anyone can come to their aid and help them, this is not what their lives looked like before that fire, and so please come to their aid. These lives need help, so if you can, help them out.
Sweetie Abochi's report for Joy News.
And that takes us to what's trending on social media. Jackie is here with us. Jackie, what's trending?
Well, Maame, see, the doctors are trending alongside what transpired yesterday at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. A lot of people on social media expressing their thoughts on that. Let me read some few comments. Obroni says that I don't remember the last time doctors or nurses called for equipment aside their salary increment. Would they have written this letter if the minister had not visited? That was on the back of the letter, the statement they issued today.
Just this morning.
Yes. One last comment here. Daniel says that this is funny. The state builds a facility with working equipment. The hospital charge for services they render, yet they can't fix broken equipment. What do they use the money they charge for? So a lot of confusion on social media on this matter.
Those are questions for the gods. Thank you very much, Jackie. And that's how we end the midday news here on Joy 99.7, also live on Hits 103.9 FM here in Accra and all over the country on our affiliates. I am Nyamekye Thompson. Up next is Pastor Mensa Otabil with Living Word.